Ramapo Native Indian Nation, keepers of the past. Used to come down as a child in the 80s. I would say the mountain was 90% Ramapo people, and now it's 7 or 8%.
Most people who think of Native Americans, they think of a reservation they own. Did you guys have that?
But this was all filled with garbage, like tires.
The state gave you this. They're like, here's a Salvation Army. It's all run down. You guys can have it for free.
Well, first of all, I beg to differ that this is a nice community. There's a lot of racism here. There's 29 homes here, lowest being $1 million, highest being $5 million. There's not one Ramapo that lives in this community.
How did you guys lose your community center in
Masingwe, one of the beings from our creation story, and that they were proposing to build through here, which they did not, in part because of what we were doing here.
Have they stated that? Have they called you the Black and Red Devils? What is up, guys? So today we are out here on the border of New Jersey and New York, at the very tip of New Jersey, which is known as the Ramapough Mountains. And today I'm gonna be exploring and visiting my first ever Native American reservation and one of the last remaining Native American groups here in the Northeast and in New Jersey. I'm excited because I'm gonna be speaking to the Chief Dwayne Perry, who's gonna tell me about their 3,500 community out here, of what's going on. We're gonna learn about what's happening, where they at, the controversial things that have been taking place with this community, as well as their battle legally, as well as some other historical things that they've been known as that we're gonna dispel today. One of the titles being the Jackson Whites. I'll pin that now, we'll talk about it later. And on top of that, just being able to explore the land, we're gonna go to a sacred site. So there's so much I'm very excited for. And yeah, let's go in right now and go talk to them. All right, we are outside here, the community center. I'm with Vincent.
Morgan.
Tell me a little about your background.
Yes, I'm Vincent Morgan with the Ramapough Mountain Indians Community Center. I'm the acting executive director of the center. We have a lot of programs for the people, the children. We work with the elders, children of the tribe.
Well, tell me a little bit about this community center. How long has this been here? And I know the history of the Ramapough goes way back, but what about this spot particularly?
This spot was originally the Salvation Army, and they donated it to the tribe, I believe, in the 70s or 80s. Don't quote me on that. But yeah, and they had donated it to the tribe, and then we used it as a tribal center and community center for our folks.
Okay, so then before then, where were you guys?
They didn't have a tribal center.
Oh, there wasn't?
No.
Okay, did you guys have like a defined reservation? Like most people who think of Native Americans, they think of a reservation they own. Did you guys have that?
We had Mallwall, New Jersey, which our folks are from, Ringwood, New Jersey, and Hillburn, New York. That was like the main area for the Ramapough people. So as far as a tribe, I don't believe there was one.
Got it, okay. Yeah. And this is your guys' signature logo right here?
Yes, Ramapo Native Indian Nation, keepers of the past.
Oh, right on.
When you have your...
a turtle, let's go.
Yeah.
So what does the turtle signify?
You'd have to ask Chief.
Okay.
You know, he's more of the historian, which you'll interview him shortly.
Yeah.
And Al has more on the history of the tribe and the turtle and things like that.
But what's your guys' size right now? How big are you guys?
We're approximately 5,000, between 5,000 and 6,000 people.
Oh, so you guys have actually gotten bigger, because I read somewhere you guys were like 3,000.
Yes. As far as tribal members with tribal cards, I think we're around 3,000. But as a whole, we're between 5,000 and 6,000, and we're spread throughout the country.
Oh, so Ramapough itself is not just here in North New Jersey?
No, they're throughout the whole nation.
What?
Yeah. Okay. Staten Island, we have folks in Staten Island.
But this is your guys' center. Like, this is where you guys are from.
Yes.
But in terms of descendants of the Ramapough, they've all spread across the U.S.
Yes.
Got it.
North Carolina, Carolinas, Florida, we're all over. But I used to come visit Hillburn every summer, and it was amazing to come up here because it was all Ramapough people. And it's like there's been a shift to where,
Well, I know that from what I've read is there's been a lot of disputes between you, federal government, state government, one of the things that I found fascinating is that the state recognizes
Yes.
the Ramapo Mountain Native Americans. However, federally, you guys are not recognized.
Yes.
Why is that? Why haven't you guys gotten that federal recognition? Because there's no actual land distributed to you other than this, right? Like there's
Yes.
nothing
we
like
have
particular.
an ancient burial grounds up, you know, further up the mountain here. It's funny, we're state recognized but not federally recognized. And then I do know they've applied for federal recognition a few times and were denied. So I'm not really familiar on why or what the reason was for that.
For you, how is the state of the Ramapo right now? How are you guys doing in terms of, because you know you hear reports all over the place, but this is why I'm doing this, is I want to hear boots on the ground, what is going on here?
Yes.
Like, are you guys dealing with poverty? Are you guys dealing with a lot of setbacks? Are you guys in an upswing? Is there a lot of good happening? Like, where are you guys right now?
Well, a little bit of all. As far as poverty, we do have some of the elders that are really struggling. We'd like to set up a food pop-up pantry in the future. And there is a upswing. When I came on, the building was in, you know, disarray. We filled 3 dumpsters of garbage to get rid of the garbage on the land and inside the building.
Here, let's walk around and talk.
Yeah, and we actually had the building since I've been on board. Thanks to Patriot Toms, by the way, who, you know, helped bring me on board.
Yeah.
So we had the building renovated on the inside, which I'll give you a quick tour of that.
Yeah.
But yeah, there was trash all over the place, man. I mean, we actually get the weeds cut down, you know, and we want to put a storage center back here. So that's what we're waiting on over here. But this was all filled with garbage, like tires and...
And this was the state gave you this? They're like, here's a Salvation Army. It's all run down. You guys can have it for free? Was that pretty much it?
Yes.
And then it's like, all right, but you guys have to take care of cleaning it, getting it back to what it was.
Yes. So when I came on board, the building was pretty much shot. You know, they did have some things that were underway. The bathrooms were set to be handicap, you know, usage, renovated. So when I came on, we got new carpets, new ceiling tiles, new floor, and new kitchen renovation.
Yeah.
Smoke alarms. We're all up to code today with everything. Fire marshal.
Yeah.
So yeah.
The state of the actual community itself, would you say it's very strong right now? Are you like?
Yes.
I know you mentioned that they've had some poverty. Like, how extreme is that? Is it not getting enough funding, or?
Well, we're looking at the funding. I know a few members have mentioned the pop-up food pantry, which I think would be great. You know, they have them all over where I live, my town, they have it. So if we can have that for the Ramapo elders or people struggling, that would be a major, you know, plus for our tribe.
So the next phase, it seems like, is fixing up the community center.
Yes.
And then I know you mentioned when we spoke over the phone that getting the rights of Split Rock back. Is that something that you're in the process, the community in the process of getting?
Al, you want to jump in real quick, buddy?
We got Al right here.
Yeah, Al is the man. He just asked.
How are you feeling?
Good. How are you? Yeah, he just asked about Split Rock with getting the land back. You want to answer that? I believe we own it now, right?
Yes, we recently received the deed to the land.
Okay.
So the secret is we never left here, so that was always a place for us.
Okay.
How long was that fight to get the actual deed back?
When did Columbus come here? So I guess about 400 years.
Does it seem like you're starting to get that respect and recognition from the state? Or does it still seem like you guys are just kind of pushed to the side? Like, what is the current feeling of the tribe?
Well, things are starting to turn, they're starting to shift. But
Yeah.
you have to remember it's been a long, hard road. I mean, in 1910, they actually had slated us for genocide. There's a concept called eugenics that emerged around the time of Darwin and the theories of evolution, and people twisted that into justifying eliminating people and races and even sexual orientation, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
So around 1910 in New Jersey, there was a school called the Vineland Training School that took in the people they called the feeble-minded and really what would later be called in Nazi Germany the subhumans. So they categorized our category as one of the subhumans. So a lot of the theories they developed for genocide and eugenics, they first started in the modern era with us here in New Jersey.
They started with the Ramapo.
Yes.
You're kidding, I didn't know that. All right, so we're just leaving the community center right now. I'm with Owl. Owl, you've been with the Ramapo for how long now? This community center, working with them?
Well, I would say I've been with them for maybe thousands of years, if you want to talk metaphysically. I mean, that's how we emerged from these lands, so
yeah.
I'd say thousands of years, but most recently I started working here kind of full-time, more or less, about 8 years ago.
So one of the things I want to talk about again, and feel free to share as much as you're comfortable with, is the names. When people hear about Native Americans, you hear about Sitting Bull. Here you hear Buffalo Bill. Everyone has a name, and yours is Owl. So
Yes.
What's the story with how you got your name Owl?
Come on, man, we just met.
Is that a personal question when you ask that about the personal names, like being like your name Owl?
Well, yes, it is. It is personal, but I'll reveal some aspects of it. But yeah, it is a very personal relationship you have to your name. We tend to discount that or not be aware of that in the modern era. So, for example, the Hudson River is actually a fjord. And in our language, Munsee language, we call it Mahikanatuck. Mahikanatuck, the river that flows both ways, because it's at sea level all the way up to Albany. So where the term ox comes in, or how it is derived, how it is distinguished from other bodies of water there, I don't know. But you can see that where you have the word Oxford,
Yeah.
which doesn't seem to signify anything. When you look at it deeper, it actually does. So, Owl, I mean, the best way I can explain it is that it isn't so much that a name is given to you or that you choose a name. It's one that reflects a relationship that you already have. Chief Perry, one of his names is Iron Bear.
Iron Bear.
So he has a special relationship with the bear. And also, in these mountains, there's a lot of iron. The first iron works, munitions works, you can say, for the revolution came from these mountains.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of iron in the mountains, the stones, and so there's a lot of iron in the people too. Because we used to be, and we still are, the guardians of these lands. We're called keepers of the pass, which means guardians of the passageway.
All right, so this kind of shows you the state of the Ramapo, is that we're in a very nice community, paved road, and right here is their sacred grounds. And Owl, so what happened here?
Well, first of all, I beg to differ that this is a nice community, and there's a lot of racism here. That's not to say that there aren't nice people here.
Yeah.
Or that people that don't act in a good way with us, but unfortunately there's, I'll just call it a virus called racism that seems to be very virulent here.
So what has happened exactly? Why do you say that? Because we're walking around and I'm seeing looks like multi-million-dollar homes, just very affluent area. And is it that they don't like that this setup is right here? Or they don't like that the Ramapo come here and have their powwows? What exactly are you saying there?
Well, some of them don't like the fact that they see us at all.
Really?
Yeah.
And they've said that verbally?
Well, they've done more than say it. They've acted in that manner. And again, not all of the neighbors here. Some of them have, and unfortunately, those seem to be the ones that are making the policy and setting the tone for what's going on. We have reached an agreement with them, and we remain here, and of course they're here.
So tell me, what exactly happened? That there was a dispute here and there was a solidarity, and you guys were out here for close to a year, if not a year, and obviously they were getting mad about that. So what happened?
Well, there was a man, an Italian man, actually, he spent a lot of time in Spain. And in 1492, he came around here looking for gold.
This guy sounds familiar.
Yeah, I think his name was Christopher. You know, so, I mean, I'm joking, but only half joking, because Christopher Columbus brought was both greed and racism. And that's what is going on here. I mean, we need to be honest with ourselves in this country. We have apartheid here. We still have it, and it's still very strong. I mean, in terms of where people live, the housing patterns, you know, there's 29 homes here. Lowest being $1 million, highest being $5 million. There's not one Ramapough person that lives in this community.
Yeah.
Even though these are the lands that we emerged from. There's no black people here, no people of African descent here. I think there might be one or two people of Asian descent who are married to people of European descent.
Yeah.
But other than that, it's pretty homogenous, so to speak. You know, so I suppose.
Is it because also this area being a higher socioeconomic that it costs more to be able to buy a home here?
That's just it. It really, like I said, we used to live in this area. We used to have small homes throughout these mountains. Some of them now are called reservations. Reservations meaning no people, just conservation, so to speak.
Yeah, and we're going to put a pin on that because I want to talk more about that, but continue.
Okay. Yeah, so, I mean, there's no reason why the housing that is here wouldn't or couldn't include us. I mean, we used to live here. But you're right in the sense that there were certain policies that were pursued that deliberately excluded us, or even working class people, from being here.
And that's affordability, a big thing. Being able to afford to buy land and build on it.
Yes, but I mean, that was even before affordability. You know, we used to have, if you go through these mountains, we used to have houses here. We used to have communities back here. There used to be a church on the other ridge here.
How long ago was that?
Mid-20th century, like I think until about 1950, 1960. And then they were forced to move.
Oh my gosh, so that was recently. That's less than 100 years ago.
Yeah.
So you guys were slowly pushed out because of the wealth in coming in here and that affordability. But how did you guys lose your community center and all that completely?
Because we didn't have, back then, we didn't have the lawyers, we didn't have the organization. I mean, quite frankly, because we were militant, let's say in the 1700s and 1800s, you know, we would kind of politely let people know not to come in the lands here.
Yeah.
And it might, if people did, it might get physical.
Oh, that's what you would say.
Well, I'm not going to get into details. I mean,
we're going to go down. Let's square up right now.
I want to keep it PG. You know,
keep it PG.
I don't want to get it rated R for violence or nothing like
that. No, I totally get it.
Yeah, but yeah, I mean, how can you say that's part of our world? But interestingly enough, once you had the emergence of zoning only came about, I think, in the 1920s or 1910.
Yeah.
And then once you had bureaucracies or bureaucratic systems, tax, zoning imposed on the lands here, then it became much easier for them to move us out.
So what do we got here? We got this sign that says Ramapough Split Rock Sweetwater Prayer Camp. So this is your guys' claimed land? Is this state-wise, like you guys own this land, or is this more of a park? Like, what is it actually today?
It has two functions. This is part of our sovereign land that we hold as a community. It doesn't exist in a vacuum, though. We also have this land, what the lawyers would call fee simple, which means outright, private deed. So this is our private property. So this is our sign marking, an entrance to this land right here. Ramapough Split Rock Sweetwater Prayer Camp.
your friend here that led this solidarity that definitely escalated things the last few years with the neighbors here. What exactly happened?
Well, Chief Perry, after discussions with indigenous allies and others, particularly in the environmental movement, opened up these lands to a vigil and a prayer camp in solidarity with the people in Standing Rock. And this was in 2016. And the people of Standing Rock, I think we all worldwide owe a huge debt to the people that came out there. And Chief Perry and I actually did go out there for a couple of days. So why I say that is that the Standing Rock movement there came about in response to the plans to build a pipeline across the Missouri River by a group called the Dakota Access Pipeline, the DAPL.
Oh, okay, so they were going to build a pipeline.
Yes, to transport, highly dangerous fossil fuels through the Missouri River. And the irony is that I think it was called Bismarck, North Dakota. The community there, the predominantly white community there, were able to get the pipeline moved south.
Okay.
Standing Rock, when they objected, DAPL, the federal government, put their foot down and said, no, this is going through here. It's almost like being force-fed. It's like, imagine someone forcing a feeding tube through you.
Yeah.
That's what happened. To be fair, the people of Standing Rock, the Dakota, Nakota, Lakota people, known in English as Sioux, didn't want that pipeline going anywhere. It wasn't that they wanted it to go further south. They didn't want it going anywhere because of their relationship with the water there, the land there, and they see how destructive it is. Also, it's important to note, I think they got up to about 10,000 people there at the site in Standing Rock.
Yeah, so there was a lot of people against it.
Yeah, it became I think one of the biggest towns in South Dakota.
Went from 20 people to 10,000.
But yeah, so although it was founded with indigenous people, there was important participation of allies. Although the pipeline was out there, those same dynamics were here as well. Mm-hmm. I mean, we had the Pilgrim pipeline that they were proposing to build through here, which they did not, in part because of what we were doing here.
Yeah.
So what we were doing here also tended to have an outsized impact because we were the original people of New York and Manhattan and New Jersey, or what became New York and New Jersey.
Take me through this prayer camp.
Okay, well, this is a prayer circle here with these masks of Masingwe, one of the beings from our creation story.
Okay.
And Chief Perry was the one that had the vision or the dream, brought that forth. And in relation to that vision, this is how this prayer circle emerged, and is really meant to be a place that people can come to for ceremony, for meditation. And Masingwe, the story, and this is actually interesting enough, like I was mentioning earlier, I really kind of came back as an adult.
Yeah.
Two Clouds, young dynamic member.
Two Clouds.
Clouds, that brought to my attention. And the way he told the story was, there was a time before humans were here on the earth where the Creator was in the process of bringing them forth.
Oh my gosh.
That the animals.
Yeah, dead raccoon right there.
Maybe this raccoon might have been one of them. It said,
holy crap, just sitting right there.
If these humans come by, things might not be too good for us.
Poor fellow. Sorry to interrupt. I just had to mention that.
Well, no, there are a lot around here. I mean, they're some of the smartest animals out there.
Yeah.
I mean.
All right. So going back to the creation story in Two Clouds was telling you.
Okay. Well, Masingwe is one of the beings in creation. So the animals perhaps they foresaw this period of time now where there would be all this destruction and chaos. We're living in the sixth biological mass extinction event.
Is this all verbal history being passed down, like Two Clouds was told by someone verbally, or do you guys have this written down in terms of the creation story as well as your history, or how is that passed?
I'm not sure exactly where he got it from.
Okay.
I got it from him verbally.
Yeah.
So between me and him, it was oral tradition.
Is that common in the Ramapough and the tribe here? That a lot of it's oral history, or do you guys have documentation? Do you have scribes trying to keep it so that history doesn't get lost?
There's a mix. I mean, a lot of it is oral, and a lot of it's probably being lost. We used to speak a language called Jersey Dutch. Up
Jersey Dutch?
Yeah, up until the, I think, early 20th century, which is indication of our, original relationship with the original colonial power here, which is the Netherlands.
Yeah.
And this is actually the 400th anniversary of the founding of what they called New Amsterdam, Manhattan there.
Yeah. Got it. Okay, so this creation story you were saying, I didn't mean to interrupt you so many times, but just so many questions. So how does it go? We're in the 6th mass extinction, and it was predicting that these would happen.
Well, I'm just saying from this point in time that maybe what they foresaw, or they saw that these types of situation would arise. But anyway, they asked Masingwe, they agreed to go to the creator to ask the creator to halt the project. Say, no, don't bring these humans here because it's going to be pretty terrible for us, which it is now, particularly now. So Masingwe agreed to go to the creator to ask him not to bring the humans here. And the creator, Kishalimokwang, who created us from thought, said to Masingwe, okay, I'll consider what you're saying, but first, if you can push this mountain, if you can move this mountain, then I will grant you your request. I'll stop the project. But if you can't move the mountain, then you're going to have to listen to what I say and not ask any more questions.
Shut up and listen then.
But you gave him a choice. Masingwe said, okay. So Masingwe tried to move the mountain. Didn't budge an inch, not even a millimeter. So then he turned around to ask another question to Kishalimokwang, and Kishalimokwang took the mountain and then knocked him upside his head with it. So that's why in certain presentations he has a sad face. Or Masingwe has a sad face.
The sad long face, yeah.
Yeah, and then others, his mouth is open, he has a shocked face.
Yeah.
Because you have to understand, Masingwe just got hit by a mountain.
Yeah.
So, this is a Ramapo River.
Yeah.
And here is actually a place where it becomes more like a pond. This is an island over here. Oh, and I have seen some old maps that say that this used to be a mining pit. That might be why it has the contours it has.
Yeah.
Yeah, but also the old maps indicate that this area also used to be an Indian village.
The old maps, oh.
Yeah, some of the old maps indicate that a village was here, and there's a trading post down the road here that's still marked as a trading post. So
no way.
So our relationship with this land, again, extends to even pre-Columbian times.
So this area, do you come down here with the youth? Do they play here in the river, hang out? Like, is this the gathering spot? From what I'm getting, if I compare it to like my Christian faith, this is like church, it feels like. And people come here, they pray, they worship. It seems like they would hang out here also. Would that be like a fair assumption?
Well, can't put it any better than Roberta Blackgoat, Dene, known in English as Navajo, put it. She says that the earth is our church, and in their society, their dwelling place, the Hogan, is its altar. So here, yes, you're in our church now. We are in our church now. And
bro, I've been in it for a minute now.
yeah. And the prayer circle there is one of our altars.
Yeah, it's one of your altars. Okay.
We have another stone altar over here.
Yeah, so what's that over there?
Well, these are prayers that people have laid down.
Okay.
One on the material side, one on the spirit side, and also recognition that they're all integrated as a whole.
So they just stack the rocks and that indicates a prayer?
Yeah, all those stones are prayers. And the irony is that altar, that circle, even I think 3 or more of us coming together to pray was once considered illegal by the town of Malwa.
How long ago was that?
Oh, that was a long time ago, like 6 years.
6 years? Okay, dude, what? All right, so what the heck's the deal there? Was that just the neighbors didn't like seeing that? Was that one of those silent kind of even like kind of mean moves where they just essentially filed the lawsuit, didn't tell you guys, and the next thing you know, you had the police knocking, being like, you can't do that, or what?
They were working together at the time, and
The
yes,
police and the neighbors.
Yes, and that's correct. Once we became visible, because we did have a vigil here 24/7. We had a sacred fire for a month or two, and then we were here just on the land in prayer.
So if we went and go knocked on one of those neighbors' doors, they wouldn't be too happy.
Maybe not with the camera, but again, I mean, we're in a different era now. Back now, and even back then, there are neighbors that are friendly. There were neighbors that weren't so friendly, and unfortunately, they tended to be the ones in leadership here. And likewise with the town of Mulwa, I mean, we have much better relations now than we did back then. But to be fair to them, a lot of what's going on is, like I said earlier, this is American apartheid. You know, so as long as you keep to your square, then things may be all right. But even when you're on your square, unfortunately, too many citizens end up getting killed, and then we have arguments over whether it was intentional or not, and then people will take sides. Bottom line is, you have certain dynamics on certain squares that you don't seem to have on others.
Yeah.
Like, you don't find George Floyd type situations with police officer involved shootings in a neighborhood like this.
It's more discreet, is what you're saying. It's subtle.
Subtle, or it's more embedded in the system. I mean, you don't have to say engage in interactions with people of another race if you zone them out. And
Yeah.
I think in some ways, to be honest with you, this is almost like a warped vision of heaven. It's like, you know, you had the coming over the bridge here,
Yeah.
and like I said, you have a pretty homogenous community.
The polo community.
Well, it's Polo Club, Polo Hunt, the Hunt and Polo Club, I think, or anyway.
We'll call it Ramapo. That works.
Yeah, it works for me. I'm not sure if it'll work for them, though. But, you know, I think in their minds, you know, maybe what happened was, you know, these black and red devils all of a sudden show up, and like, how did they get into heaven?
Have they stated that? Have they called you the black and red devils?
They didn't have to say it. That's how they treated us.
That's how they treated you.
In other words, as long as they didn't see us, I mean, because we always had people coming back and forth. As long as we were maintaining, as long as we were virtually invisible, we're tolerated. Once we became visible, that's when some of the people lost their minds.
And that's when the confrontations they wouldn't come up to you guys and be like, you need to stop doing that. Maybe a few.
Sometimes they would.
They would.
Some of them would, yeah.
And they would just come to you and tell you to stop? How would that go?
I mean, fortunately, it tended in those points to just be verbal, but we did hear gunshots on the land.
You heard gunshots?
Yeah.
So they were threatening you to leave?
Yeah, again, to be historically accurate, and you're making a record here as well. Two Clouds, Murad Williams was the one that really was the person here that was taking care of the land. I mean, I was here a lot of the time. Again, Chief Perry opened up the space, but Two Clouds was the one that was on the forefront in dealing with a lot of what was going on.
Yeah.
So, you know, I heard some, but he said that it was that it wasn't uncommon to hear that from time to time. And there, you know, also there was one time where one of our members with Two Clouds were here, like we have been for, you know, hundreds of years, and they were just on the land, and there was like a laser beam that came at them. That was, you know, someone put a laser on them, and you know what that could mean.
Oh, like they put like a green laser, or like they put like maybe like a gun sights laser?
Gun sights laser.
Geez, so they were trying to threaten you off the land is what you were saying. And then if that didn't work?
Some people. I can't say it was them that did this, but there were people that did not want us there doing what we're doing.
Got it.
You know.
And then on top of that, you mentioned off camera how they federally tried to charge you $10,000 a day. There was a legal dispute there saying that you can't be on this land.
It was a town. And it was for, like I said earlier, it was for the prayer circle, the stone altar, and even coming together to pray.
Yeah.
But again, I mean, we're in a different place now. We're you know, seeking to work with our neighbors, with the town. And so we're not in that phase of the conflict now. But again, what that illuminated to me was, that he brought home to me is we got to be honest with ourselves. We live in American apartheid right now. And it isn't any coincidence that some of the most polluted land, some of the hardest land to live on, is lands that are allocated to black and red and brown people. That's no accident. You know?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, that doesn't mean that it's that way 100% across the board, but there's enough of a racially segregated housing pattern that it is no accident. You know? And there's a really good book called The Color of Law that talks about this. It's called The Color of Law.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So then, what's the solution? How do you get along with the neighbors, and how can the tribe live among the neighbors?
That was our prayer. That was our prayer. Let's start with what we really all need, mm-hmm. which is the good water, and the good air, and the good food.
Yeah.
So we start there. Let's make sure that we all, regardless of where we live or who we are or what color we are, let's make sure that we all get good water, that we all have good air.